well, I don't want to spoil anything for you. I feel like I've been saying that a lot. I really want to talk about it at the beginning, but then I don't want to spoil anything, so. Alright. Toni was born on December 27th, 1979. She grew up in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. At the young age of 6, which I cannot get my head around, she tragically lost her father in an accident. Her mother, Donna, remarried when Toni got a little older to a man named Peter, and he raised Toni and her sister Candy as his own daughters, which was amazing. It takes a real good man or woman to do that. During young adulthood, Toni encountered some pretty difficult challenges in her life. She had bipolar disorder. Now, the difficult part was this wasn't diagnosed officially until adulthood. So doctors just basically tried her on a bunch of different medicines to try and deal with her symptoms, which included depression and anxiety and manic episodes. Somehow the bipolar disorder diagnosis just, I don't know, got missed, or maybe the symptoms didn't quite fit. I couldn't actually find that specific explanation, but this, excuse me, this ultimately led Toni to struggle with alcohol and drug abuse because she was trying to deal with these symptoms without these medicines that made her feel horrible. At 17 years old, she welcomed her first child, a baby girl, and she brought her daughter into the world as a single mother. Now, just to backtrack just a hair, bipolar disorder, if you don't know, can cause a because she had not done so in a very long time. In fact, just the morning before this, Toni had asked Donna, or called Donna at work, to ask her to please check her pill bottles and call in any prescriptions that she may be running low on. So she intended to keep taking them. So, when Toni left and drove to Crystal's house, which was located in West Crystal thought at first that her friend would calm down, turn around, and come back for her. And when this didn't happen, after about 10 minutes or so, she calls Toni to try to get her to come back to pick her up, but the call goes straight to voicemail. Crystal is super embarrassed by the circumstances now, and she doesn't want to go back up there and ask someone from Willie's say that